Hello, and welcome to another edition of Ask the Professor, a crowd-funded, crowd-driven feature where we answer your questions on history, economics, culture, political philosophy, all the things that matter to us in our life together as citizens. And today's question comes from somebody using one of those online aliases that I don't much care for. This isn't one of those questions where you understand why they're seeking confidentiality. Just the way the world is. At any event, I decided that I will answer it because the question is, can we handle the night watchman state? A government that suppresses force and fraud, engages periodically in necessary takings to do things like build highway infrastructure, and otherwise leaves us to work out our own destiny in fear and trembling? Or are we bound to the apron strings of the nanny state? And my answer is yes. We can and we should have a minimal state. We wouldn't find it easy these days. We are so used to having government look after us. And the more government looks after us, the more our prosperity and our capacity to act independently seeps away. But, as Adam Smith said, when told, it was after the Battle of Yorktown, I believe, someone said to him, "Oh, Britain is ruined." And Smith said, "There's a great deal of ruin in a nation." For more than 1,000 years in the English-speaking world, government could be small because the citizens were large, and we have not lost that habit. But the more and the more insistently we reassert it, and the sooner we reassert it, the better off we'll be. People tell me, "Oh, but without socialized medicine, people would die in the streets." And I say, that argument depends upon two ideas. One is that although Canadians are compassionate enough to vote that other people should fund a socialized welfare or system, including healthcare, they are not sufficiently compassionate that they themselves would contribute to private medical charity. And secondly, that even if they did do that, the public sector is way more efficient than the private sector, and therefore it is much better able to provide services. Now, I trust you did not spit your coffee out or hurt yourself laughing when I mentioned the possibility that the government's more efficient than the private sector. But people really do talk like that. They say, "Oh, well, we should have pharmacare because there'd be no overhead. There'd be no duplication. There'd be economies of scale." There really are people out there arguing that government is more efficient than the private sector. I'm not going to recapitulate the whole of sensible economics, but that argument is wrong. The other one is, well, would we care enough to do it? And the answer is, if not, we're a bunch of miserable finks. But the answer is also that habit, as Aristotle said, is second nature. And that the more we rely on George to do it, or rather King George to do it, the less able we are to do it ourselves. The same thing is true of educating our children. If the state provided vouchers but did not run the school system, we'd have to get involved. And the sooner we start doing that, the sooner we take charge of what happens in the education system and why, the sooner we'll get good at it. Nothing in life, just about, works without practice. And everything in life, as Chesterton said, gets easier with practice, except getting up in the morning. So it's not just that we can afford to live under minimal government. We need to do it so that we become more and more able to do it, so that we become indignant at the suggestion that we have neither the moral nor the practical capability to face life's challenges, including the challenge of looking after the less fortunate, unless we are coerced into doing so by governments elected by people who are, if not better than ourselves, at least more able to order our lives morally and practically than we could ever do. That is a very dangerous idea because in the end, it makes citizens as helpless as it assumes they are to start with. And that is the last thing we should do. Now, as I said at the beginning, Ask the Professor is crowd-driven, crowd-supported. We rely on your questions and comments. We never make them up. So if you have one you'd like to ask or something you'd like to say, this URL will take you to where you can do it. And if you're not already a sponsor of my work and you'd like to help me continue producing it, click here and become a one-time or monthly patron. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.